The community comes together, the games being played by Abundant Life Christian school students in the wake of last month's shooting.
And the first human death from bird flu has been confirmed in the U.S. What state health officials are doing to keep Wisconsin residents safe.
Plus, working on thin ice, the plans from the city of Madison to keep 2 of its ice arenas open. You're watching News 3 Now at 5.
And we begin tonight with a live look at the Madison College Gym. That's where Abundant Life Christian School's basketball team is preparing for its first games since last month's shooting.
The junior varsity team is set to tip off at 6 o'clock tonight, with varsity playing right after around 7. Our Maddie Heimsch will be live at the games throughout the night. She'll have reaction from the community.
Meanwhile, the next couple days will stay dry for the Madison region.
With some colder weather, but colder than it is now, believe it or not, on the way. Alex Harrington is on the weather patio with the forecast. Alex?
And all bundled up, ready for the temperature drop that we're going to see. Not a really big drop, but definitely a little bit colder than what we've been experiencing the past couple of days. Right now, we got a 2-3 in Madison right now as we look at our first warn weather cam. The wind chill's down to 16, and meaning we've got a little bit of a breeze out there, northwest at 6. It doesn't make much in the wind department to turn those actual air temperatures down a little bit. As we plan the evening, 6 o'clock 20, 10 o'clock 16. You're probably thinking, Alex, this looks like last night. We are going to be expecting colder temperatures tonight. More on that in a moment. 23 in Madison, 24 in Middleton, 25 in Edgerton. So this is okay, normal for this time of year so far. 25 in Boscoville, but 19 in Camp Douglas and 21 in Janesville. Tonight, we're going to get down into the single digits, widespread across all of southern Wisconsin. Average lows are right in the lower teens, so we're a little bit below normal tonight. The good news is the wind chills will be on the light side, or I should say the winds will be on the lighter side tonight. And as we fast forward into tomorrow, a little bit colder. We're going to be about 5 degrees colder than what we've experienced today. Coming up in Maine weather, we're going to track our temperatures, any changes there. And what about any augmentation or any changes to that snowfall forecast? Let's talk about that together in a couple minutes.
All right, we'll check back in a bit, Alex. Thank you. Monday, officials confirmed the first human death of the bird flu. It happened in Louisiana.
Our Jalen Banks spoke with the Wisconsin Department of Health Services on the steps to keep folks here in Wisconsin safe. Jalen.
Eric and Susan, U.S. agencies have been monitoring the bird flu for 25 years, and not until recently have we seen human contractions in the U.S. And speaking to some experts, there is some cause for concern. The first confirmed case of the bird flu in Wisconsin was on December 18th, 2024. This was the same day officials announced the hospitalization of the individual in Louisiana suffering from severe symptoms, who would eventually die from the infection on Monday. Speaking with one expert from UW-Madison, they say the handling of the virus so far is an area of concern.
There isn't enough emphasis on surveillance and research on these viruses. And what's it going to take to get this federal money? Is it going to take 1 death? Is it going to take a dozen deaths, 50 deaths? What's the threshold that they're going to start taking this seriously? We would hate to stay with that same philosophy and something bad or devastating happen.
Speaking with the Wisconsin Department of Health Services, they are taking steps to prevent this from becoming a wider problem in Wisconsin.
Working very closely with the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. They're the ones who usually get the first notice of anything that might be going on at a farm, whether it's a poultry farm that would result in significant death to the birds, or if it's a cattle farm, a dairy farm.
DHS also says there is a recent emphasis on human monitoring as well.
That's one of the things we're looking at very closely is potential human-to-human transmission. When we do have cases like this, once they're tested, we go out and do what we call contact tracing. We want to know if anyone else has been sick too. If they have been sick, that they have exposure to an infected poultry farm or infected cattle farm.
For more of our reporting on the bird flu here in Wisconsin, you can find it on our website at channel3000.com.
Jalen, thank you. For the first time, the Food and Drug Administration has established limits on the amount of lead in processed baby foods. Under the new guidelines, baby food manufacturers should have no more than 10 parts per billion of lead in baby yogurts, puddings, and processed fruits and vegetables. Root vegetables, which typically contain the highest levels of lead from the soil, should have no more than 20 parts per billion. The guidance does not cover infant formula or snack foods, and child advocates say the new guidelines are largely ineffective because the agency's action is not enforceable. Some Americans with medical debt could soon get a boost on their credit scores leading up to his final days in office. President Biden is finalizing a rule that will end the addition of medical debt on credit reports. If Congress doesn't rescind the rule, about 15 million people will have an estimated $49 billion removed from their scores. The rule will take effect 60 days after it's published in the Federal Register.
Madison Fire Station number 6 is closing its doors to make way for redevelopment. The firefighters and paramedics housed on West Badger Road will relocate to a temporary station on Fish Hatchery Road. The department expects to be housed at the facility until late 2026 or early 27. Station 6 improvements will include better living spaces and accommodations for the firefighters and EMTs during their 24-hour shifts. Voters in Oregon will be asked to support a property tax levy on the April 1st ballot. And the question asks whether or not voters support a permanent $1.95 million increase in the tax levy. Funding would help fill several city positions, including 3 full-time police officers, 3 public works positions, and additional public works seasonal staff. The village says after a high level of sustained growth, they're now understaffed and have a limited ability to keep up with growing demands for services. City of Madison receiving millions of dollars to make housing more affordable. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency awarded the city's sustainability program $20 million. Now, this funding will help provide homes with free energy upgrades. Those improvements will decrease the overall energy demands of the region to protect Madisonians from rising energy prices while also reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
The city of Madison is trying to figure out a way to keep 2 of its public indoor ice arenas open and out of debt.
Our Armand Rahman has more on one proposal the City Finance Committee approved just last night. Armand?
Eric and Susan, the Hartmeyer Ice Arena on the northeast side and the Madison Ice Arena on the west side have both been owned by Madison Ice Inc. since 2004. But the nonprofit is barely skating by in terms of funds, with only $178,000 of available cash at the end of fiscal year 2023, and they're in debt to the city.
I think they're a viable component to a healthy lifestyle in the city of Madison.
About 16,000 people use either the Hartmeyer Ice Arena on the city's north side or the Madison Ice Arena on the west side.
Obviously, the weather wasn't conducive to outdoor skating with the warm weather we had in December. We had over 900 people come through our doors in 4 different days.
But after forcing to close during the COVID pandemic, Executive Director Stu Taylor says they've been on thin ice financially. When they realized they'd be in default on their loan, they started talking with the city in 2023.
As far as, what is a good path forward?
Madison's Finance Committee came up with a few paths.
When I heard about the problem is let's grab them and turn them into affordable housing.
Alder Johnny Gare says the city could sell the arenas to a developer for market rate apartments or develop them into affordable housing, which would have been an even cash break.
That would probably be the most expensive operation.
And the city would lose one of the only adaptive skate programs in the area and the self-proclaimed biggest learn to skate program in the state.
I think I was particularly touched weighing that issue of what could we get out of them versus the service that is being provided. Could that be picked up by any other party? Not anytime in the near future.
So the Finance Committee approved a proposal which would eventually forgive MII's $1.6 million in debt if a new nonprofit, East Madison Ice Collective, took over the Hartmeyer Arena and raised $3 million for capital improvements like repairing the roof.
This path forward would allow us to use some of the operational funds that we generate.
Now, Taylor says this proposal would also allow Madison Ice Arena to upgrade the rink floor at the west side location and the dehumidification unit to sustain spring and summer ice time. Madison Common Council is set to take up the proposal at their next council meeting on Tuesday.
Armand, thank you. The largest bank in America, J.P. Morgan Chase, plans to soon tell all employees they'll have to return to the office 5 days a week. That move would end the company's hybrid work option that's allowed thousands of employees to work remotely. some of the time. About 60% of JP Morgan's employees are already required to be in the office 5 days a week, and that includes managing directors, operations, and many customer-facing employees. Negotiations to prevent a strike at the nation's East and Gulf Coast ports resumed today. The standoff between the U.S. Maritime Alliance and the International Longshoremen's Association resulted in a walk-off, you might remember, late last year. A tentative agreement on some matters resulted in workers returning to the job. However, members said they'll go back to the picket lines on January 16th if certain issues aren't addressed.
A Madison native is celebrating 35 years of entertaining people around the world. Mark Hayward's Friends and Fans comedy yo-yo show is heading back to his hometown of Madison. Mark has performed around the world from Shanghai, Sweden to Melbourne to Middleton. The 90-minute show will display all of Mark's skills that have been learned over his long career, from yo-yo tricks to juggling and juggling unusual props like a blowgun.
One of the things that people often wonder about is, as a yo-yo guy, am I just performing for little kids? And the answer is no. I'm definitely performing for them, but I've spent a lot of time and effort to make my show something that's fun for all age groups. My favorite audience is kids, parents, and grandparents all together. I don't really get that very often, so that's one of the things that I'm hoping to see at my show.
Welcome home, Mark. Tickets are open to the public. A link to purchase them can be found on our website, channel3000.com.
When we come back, Alex tells us about our snow chances later in the week.
Plus, remembering Jimmy Carter, the tributes pouring in for the former president as he makes his last trip to Washington.
On Wall Street today, the markets notch another day in the red. The Dow down 178 points. The Nasdaq tumbles 375. S&P loses 66. We'll be right back.
You're watching News 3 Now at 5.
Former President Jimmy Carter has made his last journey to Washington today.
His body will be brought to the Capitol Rotunda, where he will lie in state until Thursday's funeral. Natalie Brand has more on the remembrances.
Flanked by family and a special honor guard, the flag-draped casket carrying former President Jimmy Carter arrived at the U.S. Capitol Tuesday afternoon. The 39th president honored with a 21-gun salute before moving inside the Capitol Rotunda for a tribute by members of Congress.
He was civil, decent, kind, even in his engagements with his political adversaries.
Georgia Senator John Ossoff reflected on Carter's legacy, not just as a state governor and U.S. president, but his achievements after he left the White House.
He continued to have a major impact, not just in the United States, but around the world as an advocate for free and fair elections. His work on public health and disease eradication. It's remarkable what he continued to achieve even after leaving office.
On the way to the Capitol, Carter's casket was transferred at the U.S. Navy Memorial, which Carter, a Navy veteran, authorized building in 1980. His family walked beside the horse-drawn caisson, a nod to Carter's decision to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue during his inaugural parade in 1977. A commander-in-chief from humble beginnings who says he aspired to make government more competent and compassionate. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Jimmy Carter's greatest legacy may be in the field of public health. After his presidency, Carter worked for decades to eradicate diseases in impoverished areas of the globe. Dr. Peter Hotez first met President Carter on a panel to raise awareness of neglected tropical diseases.
He did something quite extraordinary. He personally championed the idea that we should think about disease and health as a human right, and took on the very ambitious task of thinking about disease eradication.
Through his non-governmental organization, the Carter Center, President Carter traveled to Africa and Asia to eliminate guinea worm disease, which is spread by contaminated water. In 1986, there were an estimated 3.5 million human cases of guinea worm. Last year, there were 14. It's on track to be the second human disease ever eradicated after smallpox.
Incredible legacy. Yeah. Well, time now for a look at your first warn forecast.
Boy, we're kind of on autopilot this week. More clouds and cold. Here's Alex with the details.
Yeah, it seems to be a broken record. We clear out at night, we get cold, the clouds fill in, it's cold, and where's the snow? Well, let's update everything here tonight. First, it's planner evening, 21 at 6 p.m., 20 at 8 p.m., and 10 p.m. If you plan on maybe taking the dog out for that last walk at night, 16 degrees. So you're looking at these temps, looks pretty similar to last night. There'll be a little bit of a difference in our forecast tonight. 23 right now, winds are 6 out of the northwest. That brings that wind chill down to 16 as we look at one of our first warn weather cams to show you. Got a few clouds out there, a little bit easier to see in some of our other cams in just a moment. But 23s and 24s, that's what we were forecasting yesterday for Dane County. And here's some other pretty pictures here with our first warn weather cam network. This allows us to show you what's going on in southern Wisconsin. Got a nice sunset here in Platteville, and the same here as the clouds thin on out in Dodgeville. The thinning out of the clouds allows the heat to go out to space, as I like to say, and that's going to allow our temperatures to be a little bit cooler tonight. Already down to 19 in Camp Douglas, 23 in Madison, 21 in Janesville and in Platteville, and up near Dodgeville at Mineral Point, just southwest at 151 at 23 degrees out there. We will be a little cooler tonight. The winds are just a touch up from where we were last night, so not quite calm, but at least they're not terribly strong. So the wind chills right now are not overly bitter out there. They drop the temperatures down by about 5 degrees or so. So 16 is what it feels like in Madison, 14 in the Dells, 13 in Janesville, and in the prairies of Grant County, we've got temperatures very close to the actual temperature because winds are calm. Here's the difference. Tonight, single digits above zero, not below zero at least, as clouds will thin out again, but we'll see those clouds fill in slowly again as we go into Thursday. High temperatures, a few degrees colder, normals 27, 28, and we'll be down into the upper teens to the lower 20s. So a colder day on not Thursday, Wednesday. I already got my days off this week. Today's Tuesday, but here's that colder day behind a brief little weather system that's cooling our temperatures down. We start to approach temperatures back up to normal. Then as we head into the weekend, another cold front comes through, briefly dropping our temperatures by the time we get to Tuesday. And then we swing back up, not to 50. So you're not seeing these roller coasters going from 40 to 50. We're staying temperatures near normal or below normal, really, through the entire 10-day forecast. If you want warm weather, it's not really anywhere here in the United States. We're going to stay cold for the extended period of time. Temperatures staying near or below normal, no big warm-ups, and that bitter cold stays at bay. At least that's good news. Snow chances, we still got them for Friday and Sunday at about 30 to 40% coverage. Join us during the 6 o'clock newscast. I'll show you some of the changes on tracks and amounts with that snowfall potential on Friday and on Sunday. So all in all, looking like January, not so much. Feeling like January, you betcha.
All right, Alex, thank you. After the break, investing in American technology. The billions of dollars heading to the Midwest for new data centers.
You're watching News 3 Now at 5.
Today, President-elect Donald Trump spoke to reporters as he gets ready to return to office in less than 2 weeks.
His remarks at Mar-a-Lago come a day after Congress certified his 2024 presidential election victory. Trump announced another foreign U.S. investment today of at least $20 billion from a Dubai real estate firm.
The investment will support massive new data centers across the Midwest, the Sunbelt area, and also to keep America on the cutting edge of technology and artificial intelligence.
Also today, lawyers for the president-elect filed an appeal with the New York State Court to dismiss the hush money case before Friday's sentencing hearing. Trump was convicted in May on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records.
A federal judge has blocked the release of special counsel Jack Smith's final report into the investigations of President-elect Trump. Lawyers for Trump and his former co-defendants Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira filed a request to stop the documents from being released. Now, the judge's order prevents Smith and the Justice Department from releasing the report until the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals reviews the emergency motion.
Meta founder Mark Zuckerberg has announced sweeping changes to how his company moderates content on its social media platform. Zuckerberg says Meta will eliminate independent fact checkers in the U.S. and replace them with a user-based community notes system similar to X, and will remove restrictions on topics like terrorism, drugs, and child exploitation. Zuckerberg says Facebook and Instagram are at a point where there are too many mistakes and too much censorship from biased fact checkers.
We're really putting the onus now on the users to identify what content needs more context, what content is more nuanced, needs another point of view. And they're going to be really focused on removing illegal content, pornographic content, things like that, that there's always that concern around safety.
Zuckerberg said the changes are coming in part because of political events, including Donald Trump's presidential election victory. He said he plans to work with the president-elect to oppose censorship pressures.
When we come back, Alex fills us in on the colder temperatures coming yet this week.
Coming up tonight on the CBS Evening News, a rapidly spreading wildfire could cause intense destruction across Southern California. We're watching the effort to contain the flames and what it means for school closures, power outages, and evacuations. We've got that and more tonight on the CBS Evening News.
Well, a missing dog in Illinois was rescued thanks to technology. The owners say their pet named Charlie went outside on a foggy morning and vanished. A thermal drone scanned the neighborhood in search of the family's missing dog.
Charlie's owners had been looking for him since last Monday. Charlie was taken to a local veterinary hospital with a broken femur. The couple, thankful for Charlie's will to survive in the cold for nearly a week and for the group's days-long effort to find him. I'm so glad that had a happy ending.
And cold weather continuing. We'll have more updates on this weather that's going to just kind of going chilly even more.
Yep, it just keeps repeating itself. We got the cold. We clear out at night, but our big warm-ups, at least we normally need those in the forecast. Maybe you want the warm-ups actually in the forecast, but not those big wild swings is what I meant to say, between 20s and then going back up to 50 degrees again. At least the bitter cold, that stays at bay as well as we look at our 10-day forecast here. Temperatures 20s and teens by day, teens and single digits by night. At 6, we'll talk more about those snow chances Friday and Sunday.
We'll get that in a half hour on News 3 now at 6. Stay tuned now for the CBS Evening News.